All right, you all, welcome back to Zaratov Sowing the Good Seed.
Yes.
Welcome back. Today we are going to be looking at something really, really foundational to the early Christian writings.
Yes.
And really what we're looking at is this idea of how belief and action, how those two things are kind of tied up together.
Yes.
And specifically when we're talking about loving one another
Yes.
and obeying what's understood as God's commands.
Absolutely. And we've got...
So really looking at this as how to live out your faith
Yeah.
instead of just talking about it,
Right.
you know?
That's a great way to put it. And we have a lot of sources that kind of speak on this.
Right?
We're going to be looking at faith, love, and obedience in the epistles.
Oh, okay.
We're going to be looking at,
Multiple different angles?
yes, multiple different angles of John's letters
Yeah.
and how they address the early church and the issues that they were facing.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be looking at that huge command
Yes.
to love one another
To love each other.
and how that plays out
Mm-hmm.
and how the themes from John's gospel
Yes.
pop up in his letters,
Right.
sometimes consistently, and sometimes how they even kind of evolve and develop.
Okay.
We're going to be looking at the historical situation of the early church
Mm-hmm.
and how these beliefs were meant to be put into practice.
Right. Like, what did this look like? Love
Exactly.
it. In real life.
And we've even got some thoughts on John's own journey
Oh, that's interesting.
and that transformation
Yeah.
from being kind of a forceful personality to someone known for love.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, we even have some Portuguese texts that echo
Really?
a lot of what we're going to be talking about.
Okay, so a lot of different perspectives.
Yeah.
A lot of different angles on the same idea. So to kind of lay out our goal here,
Yes.
we're really trying to understand why the epistles put so much weight
Yes.
on loving your fellow believers
Yes.
and living in obedience to God's commands.
Yeah.
Why is that so important?
Why is it
Why is that so central?
essential to genuine faith?
Yes.
And how did all of this connect to what was actually happening in the early church back then?
Like, why were they so adamant about this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if we can jump right into it,
Yeah, let's get into it.
the epistles, they don't treat faith as something you just hold in your mind or just express with your words.
Right, it's not just a mental exercise.
Yeah.
It's not just...
That's just something you think about.
Yeah, you can't just say, oh, yeah, I believe that, and then,
And just keep on
do whatever you want to.
living however you want.
Right, exactly.
Our sources really emphasize that just saying you believe something,
Yeah.
it's not enough.
Right?
It's not enough to just have that profession of faith.
Yeah, you got to show it.
You got to show it.
Yeah.
You got to have some concrete actions.
And what's interesting is, and what I think really stood out to me from the sources, was how consistently they point
Yes.
to those two key actions.
Yeah.
Love for fellow believers and obedience to God's commands.
Absolutely. That is huge.
It's like they're not saying this is a suggestion,
Right.
this is encouraged, this is a good idea. It's like,
Right.
no,
This is it.
this is the way that genuine faith shows up.
This is how you can tell.
Yes.
This is the evidence.
This is the evidence.
This is how you know it's real.
Exactly. So it's not enough to just say, yeah, I believe.
You got to act like it.
Right, you gotta act like it, yeah.
You got to live it out.
Live it out.
It's got to change how you interact with people,
Right.
especially with your faith community.
Yes.
And it's got to change how you live your life based on what you believe God wants you to do.
So let's talk about love for a second.
Okay, let's get into it.
Because this feels like it's a huge theme.
Yeah, it's at the center of everything.
At the center of everything.
And this idea of fraternal love, this love for one another, it appears over and over again
Yeah.
as this distinguishing characteristic of Jesus's followers.
It's like their ID card.
Yes, it's like the thing that sets them apart.
It's how, if someone's really a follower of Jesus,
Mhm.
it's like, oh, they show that kind of love.
Exactly.
And this isn't something that just shows up in the epistles,
No.
right? This goes straight back to Jesus himself in the Gospel of John,
Yes.
where he's giving that clear command to love one another.
And the epistles really see themselves as taking that commandment from Jesus and putting it into practice.
Okay, so they're taking it a step further.
Yeah, they're saying, all right, we've got this instruction.
Yeah,
Now, how do we live this out?
right. And what I think is so interesting is they don't just stay general.
Right. They get
Well,
specific.
They get specific.
It's not just like
Yeah.
a vague idea of, just be nice.
Right.
Like they really urge believers to live out this love in their daily interactions.
Yeah.
with the Christian community.
It's like, how do you show up every single day
Yes.
to the people around you?
It's not just a feeling.
Yeah.
It's how you treat people.
It's those little things that you do.
Yeah, and it's more explicit.
Right.
They give more explicit exhortations on how to do this.
And so if someone in
Yeah.
the early church was saying,
Mhm.
hey, I'm a follower of Jesus,
Yes,
what the epistles are saying is, okay,
prove it.
this practical everyday love,
Yeah,
that's the proof.
that's how you can tell.
That's how you know.
It's evidence
It's evidence.
of genuine faith.
So love is that visible sign.
Mhm.
It's that way that you treat others.
It's a marker.
Now, what about obedience?
Yeah, how does that fit into this picture?
Yeah.
Well, Ludmilla, the epistles place a strong emphasis on obedience to God's commandments.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes the command to love.
Okay.
So it's not just about extending love to your fellow believers.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that love itself
Okay.
is a command.
So there's a both and situation.
Exactly. So obedience becomes an act of love,
Okay.
and love becomes an act of obedience.
And they really push this idea. Yeah.
Of how you actually know God.
Yes.
It's not just, I know about God,
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of God.
It's about a relationship.
It's about knowing God.
Yeah.
And what they say is that keeping God's commandments is how you know that you know God.
It's that connection.
It's that connection.
It's not just saying the words.
Right.
It's living it out.
It's how you live your life.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about this connection
Mhm.
between faith and action,
Yes.
especially seen in love for fellow believers
Absolutely.
and obedience to God's commands. But why?
Yeah.
Why are they making such a big deal about this?
Why this emphasis?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's where understanding the context of the early church comes into play.
Okay.
Because these weren't just random or abstract ideas that they were throwing around.
Right.
These were very specific responses
Mm-hmm.
to things that were happening.
Talk what kind of things were happening.
Well, they were facing a lot of challenges. One of them was the emergence of heresies, like false teaching.
Yes, false teachings and false doctrine
Okay.
that were misrepresenting Jesus.
They're saying things about Jesus that aren't true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they were concerned about this figure of the Antichrist.
So they were really trying to combat that
Yes.
with these letters.
They were saying, look,
Mm,
there are people out there
yeah,
teaching things that are wrong,
right.
and you need to be careful.
So it's almost like a defensive posture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was more defensive
Yeah,
than the gospel.
right. Because the gospel is just saying, hey, here's Jesus.
Yeah, come and follow.
But this is saying, hey, there are some things out there that could trip you up.
Yeah, you need to be
You
careful.
have to be discerning.
Yeah, you need to discern false teaching.
Yeah.
And how do you do that?
How do you do that?
Well, by holding on to the truth of who Jesus is.
Okay, so how does this focus on action help in this situation?
Well, because they stressed that genuine faith
Mm-hmm.
inevitably results in love and obedience.
Mm.
It was a way for them to say, look,
Mhm.
if you see someone
Yeah.
who's teaching something,
Yeah.
but their life doesn't line up, that's how you know.
It's a red flag. So it's not enough to just have the right ideas.
Right.
You got to be living them out.
You have to live it out.
You have to embody them.
Exactly. And so you can actually tell if someone's teaching is off
Mm-hmm.
by observing how they live
Ooh, that's good.
and how they treat others.
So that's like a real test.
It is a test. It's a measure of authenticity.
Okay, so it's not just about these arguments and debates.
Right.
It's about seeing it lived out.
It's about the fruit.
Right. Was there anything else going on that
Yeah.
was kind of contributing to this?
Well, the church was growing,
Right.
and as it grew, there was a need for practical guidance.
Okay, so they needed more specific instructions.
Yeah, because people were coming from all over.
Right. They had all kinds of different backgrounds.
Yes. And so the epistles, they gave more explicit exhortations
Okay.
on how to live this love out.
Because it's one thing to say love each other.
Yeah. But what does that look like?
Right.
What does that look like?
In day-to-day life.
Day to day.
What does that look like in community?
Exactly.
Okay, and it seems like they were also concerned with just some basic issues of right and wrong.
Yes.
Like this constant focus on obedience and avoiding sin.
Mhm.
That seems to be another really key concern.
Absolutely. And it's all about connecting beliefs and behavior.
Like what you believe should change how you act.
It has to.
Okay, and one thing I noticed in the sources
Mm-hmm.
is this explicit link between truth and love.
Yes, they go hand in hand.
How does that all work together?
Well, the epistles, they make it very clear
Okay.
that true faith, which is rooted in the truth about Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
naturally leads to love.
Okay, so you can't have one without the other.
Like two sides of the same coin.
Okay, and this even extended to things like hospitality.
Yes.
Right.
They talked about hospitality and supporting the truth as a practical way
Okay.
of showing love.
So welcoming people in.
Yes.
Supporting those who are teaching the truth.
Mm-hmm.
That's all part of it.
It's all connected.
So what we're seeing here
Mm-hmm.
is how the epistles really build on the foundation of the gospel.
Yeah.
The gospel lays out these core truths about Jesus.
Right.
His divinity,
Mhm.
God's love for humanity,
Yes.
and that command to love one another.
Mhm.
And the epistles are saying,
Okay, so now what?
now what do you do with that?
How do you live that out?
How do you actually live this out,
Yeah.
especially when you're facing these specific challenges?
Exactly, and that's the difference.
Yeah.
The gospel lays the foundation,
Yeah.
but the epistles are like the blueprint
Okay. I like that.
for how to build a house.
And one thing I noticed is the way that the focus seems to shift a little bit.
Yeah.
In the gospel, a lot of times you see Jesus as the light, overcoming darkness.
Yeah.
But in the epistles,
It gets more specific.
it gets more specific.
Yeah.
It's like they're addressing very specific darknesses.
Yeah, the darkness of false teaching
Yeah, the darkness of these heresies.
and the darkness of sin.
And you also see this real focus on action
Yeah.
and obedience,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is interesting because in the gospel,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times it's about faith.
Yeah, faith for eternal life.
Right. But the epistles are saying,
Okay, but what does that faith look like?
what does that faith look like in action?
How do you actually live that out?
Yeah.
It's like the gospel opens the door,
Okay.
and the epistles tell you how to walk through it.
And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the Apostle John himself.
Oh, yeah.
Because his own transformation is
Yeah.
really powerful.
His story is amazing.
When you think about these themes of faith and love and obedience,
It's like he embodies it.
he embodies it.
He goes from being one of the sons of thunder,
Right, like fiery.
yeah, known for his temper,
Yeah.
to being known as the apostle of love.
And that's a big
It's a
change.
huge change.
So he's not just talking about it,
He's living it out.
he's living it out.
And it shows us
Yeah,
that transformation is possible
that we can change.
and that it's important.
Right, and that love and service are so central to
Yeah.
being a follower of Jesus.
They're at the heart of it.
So as we kind of wrap up here,
Mhm.
what would you say is the biggest takeaway?
The key takeaway is that true faith isn't just what you believe.
Mm.
It's about how you live.
It's about how you live.
It's about showing love
Yeah.
to your fellow believers
Mm-hmm.
and striving to obey God's commands.
And this should really make us think about our own lives
Absolutely.
and our own understanding of faith.
Are we living it out?
Are we living it out?
Are we showing love?
Are we being obedient?
Are we making a difference?
And how are we responding to the challenges that we're facing today?
Yeah, because we're facing challenges too,
Right.
just like the early church.
So if you're interested in digging deeper,
Mm-hmm.
we encourage you to explore the Gospel of John
Yes,
and his epistles.
there's so much wisdom there,
So much wisdom,
so much to learn
so much to learn.
about what it means to follow Jesus.
Well, that brings us to the end of our time today.
Yes, it does.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Zeratop Sowing the Good Seed.
It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, keep seeking,
Keep seeking the truth.
keep seeking the truth,
Keep seeking love.
keep seeking love, and keep sowing the good seed.